Right, the file is I'm gonna send you what I'm gonna send you now is actually
Hello, everybody. Our apologies. We're just having a few technical issues here. But I can begin, of course, by introducing ourselves. So my name is Nikki Wilson-Clasby. I am the composition coordinator at SUNY New Paltz. And my colleague here is Rachel Rigolino, who is also in the composition program, and she is a coordinator of the SWW program, our developmental writing program. So thank you so much. And today we'd like to introduce you to a tutor training website that Rachel and I built under a Shaw grant last summer, which is a TA tutor training pilot. It's for a TA tutor training pilot program that we advocated for back in 2021 to help support our students in the developmental writing program. We were having trouble maintaining a sustainable supply of tutors. So we decided to move this program into our TA program to see if we could solve the problem. So the tutor training site was made possible through a lot of generous collaborative effort as we made use of all the free resources available to us. And the Shaw grant, of course, went to pay salaries for 2 undergraduate researchers to help us work on the program. So Rachel is going to tell us a little bit about why we needed this site. We had a huge problem on our hands. Rachel, would you like to tell us what that problem was?
yes, and hopefully here that everyone can hear me. What was going on during the pandemic, and then actually this began before the pandemic, and then the pandemic exacerbated the issue. Our developmental writers, we had a program that was very, very successful for many years. And we had tutors who tutored our students within this kind of seamless concept of support because our developmental writers were taking, they were not remedial courses, but they were the actual composition courses, and they received an hour of tutoring outside of class time and also a workshop hour. So it's that acceleration model many of you may be familiar with, the ALP model, similar to that. But what happened was we lost a federal TRIO grant that had provided the tutors for our students. So we were at a point at which we needed to find a way to train our own tutors, but on the cheap, as we say. Right, Nikki?
Yes, and the COVID crisis really exacerbated this problem because the online learning was particularly hard felt with this particular demographic of students, and they were really, really struggling. So we decided to solve the problem by running a pilot program to train a couple of our TAs who were training to teach in the composition program, take 2 of those students and train them to be tutors. And the way that we would do it is we would build an online training website that those tutors could engage with to help get them up to speed for the task. So that's how the problem was kind of solved. We applied for to the dean for permission to run a pilot program, and it was okayed. So last summer, Rachel and I spent the summer putting the Shaw grant together, selecting 2 amazing undergraduate students, and putting together a package of very interesting tutor training materials that we had gleaned from all sorts of different sources, much of which was from the generosity of other professionals in the field. So what we'd like to do first is actually show you the product that we put together, because it's actually pretty amazing. Our research students did a pretty thorough job, and we're going to allow them to present it to you. This was their work, and so we're going to allow them to introduce it to you. So hopefully our video is cued in here so that you can listen to Lauren and Steph, our 2 undergraduate researchers, explain the site to you.
Right. So
I
we thought
Okay.
we would The video will begin at minute 41 and it will continue to minute 46. So, in just to preface this, these are the two graduate students with whom we worked, and one of them is describing for us. Lauren is describing for us how the what the website looks like, and so here you get a sense. She's going to introduce it to all of us, so you get to see what it was like. Okay. One thing to say, and this is, we're having a little bit of this technical problem, which is a little making me a little shaky. But the reason we thought that this tied in so nicely to CIT was that we were able to leverage technology to solve a problem that at one point seemed to be intractable. And the problem was, the fact that we had this, lack of resources, basically lack of money, and it was during the pandemic, and it was like, how can we do all of these things? And we really found, we thought, very good ways of using technology. 41, it should start at minute 41
41:35,
is the
forty-one
minute.
35 seconds.
There you go. It's coming up. Okay, are people able to hear the video well enough or not? I'm having a little difficulty hearing.
Mm.
Okay. So, one thing that I would say about the site itself, it was built on Hawk Sites. Again, we worked with these undergraduate students to build a comprehensive site containing material. And what you couldn't hear probably was that they interviewed instructors in our developmental writing program. So this project wound up being really multimedia, bringing in these podcasts from the instructors. We also had video clips. We had links out to training sites, and all of the material was designed to be accessible by the students who were going to become tutors. So these were kind of layer upon layer of mentorship. So we're building a site with undergraduates to train graduate students as tutors, and it's somewhat complicated, the structure, but so many people were involved, including the faculty, and it's too bad you couldn't hear the podcast there. They were great. Okay.
Okay, sounds like we have the sound back in order now. So, what we'd like to do now that you've actually seen the product, what we'd like to do is to take you behind the scenes a little bit of this project to give you a glimpse of how we made the most of the resources available to us. And so, we'd like to focus on two key areas, mentorship and collaboration, from the perspective of our two student researchers. So, Lauren and Steph brought a huge amount of passion and energy with their own professional expertise and experiences on the project. And in their reflections on the experience of building the site, they actually reveal the depth of their value as resources for the project themselves. So, in the following clip, Steph and Lauren discuss their awareness of the graduate audience that they're building the site for, um, and how they use that knowledge when selecting the content for the TA training site. So in this discussion, you can clearly see how both of them contribute as peer mentors from behind the scenes, which is really interesting. So let's see if we can roll that clip.
Good day.
Thank you.
Okay, so when you're putting the site together, do you think the site is meant to train tutors who are graduate students who are about your age. So they're peers too, in a sense, to the students who are they're a few years older, but essentially the same generation. Were you conscious at all sometimes of choosing elements to put into the site that would appeal to someone your age or appear like it working with it? Like, were you conscious at all of that? I don't know.
I definitely was. I found myself putting into the site content that I found most engaging and most interesting. And having gone through tutoring training myself, I knew what I responded to well and what I didn't respond to well. And obviously, the tutors who will be using our site are grad students, and they have a lot of work on their plate already. So we didn't want to make that harder for them, and we were all very mindful of that. I think that
we hope.
Yes, we hope. We'll see. To have content on the site that that was easy to understand, that was easy to consume for the grad students, was very present in my mind as I was putting my parts of the site together. I used a lot of videos. I liked to incorporate more visuals and kind of things that felt more like a break than like let's say a very long academic article that undoubtedly has very important information, but that we could maybe find another way to explain or a way to isolate that information so that it would be easier and more compact for the grad students who would be viewing the site. So it was definitely something I was really mindful of as someone who has gone through the training and as someone who is part of a younger generation myself.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. When I was putting it together, I was thinking in terms of the type of content that I prefer to learn from, which is interesting because in many of my classes now, I'm learning about how you sort of need to decenter your own experience from how you learn and how you're presenting content. But at the same time, I do feel that a few general principles hold true. If possible, summarize the academic article. The grad students don't have time to read all of that. Find videos, visuals, break up the large bodies of text with something that's more easy to consume, like a podcast, which Lauren worked very hard on.
So just to follow up, I think Steph and Lauren did a better job than I would have done to express this. Watching this again and listening to them, the wisdom of two students who are, it's juniors, seniors, but coming to this project and thinking about the multimedia part of it and how it ties into learning. I thought it was really extraordinary. So, and their sense of audience and who they are as learners and what our learners need. It was really rewarding, I think, for Nikki and for me to be able to work with them and get them to that point to be thinking about all these issues.
I agree with Rachel. Lauren and Steph were very much our mentors in this whole project. I mean, Rachel and I were fussing and losing sleep over the pedagogy and the scaffolding, and Lauren and Steph really helped keep us in check and keep us focused on our audience and the task at hand. So, you know, collaboratively that worked very successfully. But in terms of mentorship, Lauren and Steph were definitely fantastic mentors for us. So this was really excellent. Okay, so speaking of collaboration, so the collaborative aspect of this whole process was kind of the driving force behind this whole project, especially in a time of scarcity and need. And in the following clip, Lauren and Steph shed light on how that collaborative spirit helped shape the content and the style of the site. And in the process of them discussing, you can see the value of that experience for them. And this was what's really important on a Shore grant. It's really important that the students are getting a lot out of this whole process. So I wanted to show you this clip because I think they reveal some very interesting insights into this collaborative experience. So let's hit that clip right now. Thank you.
And to continue from what you were saying about the hardest part about working on the site, I wouldn't cite a specific part of the site. I would say more the hardest part was working on things digitally, and not necessarily being able to have long conversations in person and just perhaps be working side by side and be able to lean over and say how.
And I'm going to interrupt you. Can you explain how the four of us work together? That's a great thing we haven't explored. How did we manage to do this?
Right. So the beginning of this project was all done over email. We communicated over email. We wrote our grant proposal through like Google Docs, I believe it was, or some sort of
a little
shared
bit of
document.
Zooming in the middle there,
Yep.
but it was our communication with the professors was mainly all through email.
Yep.
And
then we continued to see through the project all digitally online using WebEx. All of our meetings were weekly online for about an hour or so, or
sometimes up to 2 hours. It
yeah.
really depended on the week. There was a lot to
And
cover.
sometimes there were 2 meetings a week at the end there.
Yeah.
That was getting crazy at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that was done either through WebEx or through email, and all other progress that we kind of made with the site, we kind of just saw as we looked at the site. So
it was very independent.
Exactly.
You know, it was all coming to conclusions and making decisions and then going off and just working on things all on our own separate veins.
Right.
It was a lot of divide and conquer, not let's work together on this one bit.
Exactly.
But now, would you say, and I'm agreeing with you, that's the way I perceived it too, but would you say though that communication was important though, the regular staying in touch communication?
Absolutely.
That we had, yeah.
I think it was essential to the success of the project. Even though some weeks, like we all were doing our own different parts of the site and dividing and conquering different tasks, it was really important to come back together and check up on each other, ask each other what we needed. And I think that that's kind of how we figured out the most important parts of the site, and how we kind of all met in one place and were able to create a cohesive look for the site,
right.
A cohesive tone for the site. Without that, I think that, you know, we all have individual ways of writing, ways of taking in and putting out information. So I think without that, we would probably have, you know, varying,
we would have 4 separate sites within one site.
Exactly. Yep.
It's amazing the work that actually the writing is pretty good. I mean, it all holds together. It doesn't
feel like a huge variation in tone is happening, which I was very happy with, because that's one of the things I was most scared of happening, especially since at the beginning we were all putting together pages with completely different styles. You know, one of us would use one kind of heading, another would use a different kind of heading. We would indicate how things should be done in completely different ways, which is why turning everything into one cohesive style was a huge project at the end. But at the same time, it was just such an important piece of that.
Right.
I also think that the fact that we were working independently did allow for some more innovation, though, because instead of like instead of working next to each other and being like, how are you doing that? Oh, I'm going to do it that way. Oh, how are you doing that? Oh, I'm going to do it that way. We each sort of developed our own separate styles. And then, you know, I would borrow an idea from Lauren, you know, add a few more videos, or maybe I came up with the idea of, you know, pulling important quotes from articles, and that ended up being something that other people would use. So as much as the independence made things difficult in a lot of cases, I think it was also useful in other ways.
Right. I was actually just going to say that Steph and I ended up working on different parts of the site in different units. But we really collaborated on ideas of how to present information. I think I would end up going and looking at what Steph was working on, and then I'd be like, oh, she put some full quotes in there. So I went back and I put them in my units, and vice versa. Steph would go and look at my units, and I had put exercises in my units. So optional scenarios that the tutors viewing the site could read and imagine how they would deal with that tutoring scenario. So then Steph was like, love that idea, I'll go put it in my site. And I just remember there were days where we were texting back and forth like, I love that you did this, and I'm gonna put it in all my units. So it was really a great collaborative effort.
It's so much fun to watch. But Nikki, did you want to kind of sum everything up, or most of it? And maybe we'll have time for a little more, but
We could. I was hoping we could sort of play a clip about what Steph and Lauren learned from the whole process. But I, I want to say that Steph and Lauren were fantastic. We finished the site at the end of last summer, just in time for the start of the semester for our two TAs in training to start, and they have been testing it out for 2 semesters now, and it has been extremely helpful. So there are some teething problems to sort out, but on the whole, the site worked really well. The TAs found the information incredibly helpful in terms of being able to sort of work on different sections of the training site each week, you know, tackling one module at a time, which we did sort of scaffold to try and fit in with the timeline of the semester to help them there. So the site has worked well. We got the okay to run the pilot program again for 1 more year. We have 2 new TAs starting up this semester. The good thing for them is that now they have the whole summer to go through the whole tutor training module during the summer. And I think that's going to make a huge difference to the outcomes at the end of the day. And we still have some teething problems. What we need to do, we still need more faculty, don't we, Rachel? We need someone to help supervise the training program. It's definitely more of a full-time job than we have time for at the moment. But hopefully one day that will change. But Rachel, do you have any closing comments too about how this has worked? Because you are the SWW coordinator.
right. I again want to kind of go back to the tech end of things. So if everyone could keep in mind, we were using Hawk Sites, which is like a WordPress, our local WordPress site. So it was pretty easy to build out. Our original intention was to use OER material, but that became problematic because some of the articles that we wanted the tutors to read were indeed behind paywalls. They could access them through our library because they are students, they're graduate students. So that wasn't a problem. You know, the idea was, though, we really wanted to create a site that other people could even use, not just, you know, even on our campus, but here is a training site for writing tutors, tutors who would be working with developmental writers, ESL students, and you know, that was the idea. So using that Hawk Sites, using the rest of the technology, obviously when building it, using WebEx, of course, to communicate, but then finding ways to bring in, as I said, the multimedia like podcasts and creating something that's interactive. I even use now I'm going to forget the name of the Rise. That was it, Rise 360, to create these kind of little mini units. So it really was an exciting project. It still is an exciting project, and as everyone knows who has created this kind of, when you have a website or when you have an open source, material like this, you can keep adding to it. And, you know, the other part is we also need to curate it. This is stuff we need to know that links are working and so forth and so on, but we want it to continue to be there and to grow.
Rachel, I wonder if it's worth just showing the site really quickly, seeing as most people sort of couldn't hear it at the very beginning. Is it worth showing a little clip of the product, or?
Or maybe we should ask for questions first.
Yeah, we could do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, good. Okay. Can you see let's see, I'm looking for my, oh, okay. Oops. Unfortunately, I'm looking at my discussion forum is blank. So, can someone read the questions?
We don't have any questions at the moment.
Oh, we don't.
So,
Okay.
no. Okay, no, that's fine. So, yep. Is it publicly viewable? No, it is only viewable to, well, Rachel, this is a question for you. Is it only available to SUNY New Paltz?
At this point, let's see if we can send this out. We had it on, uh, where you did need to have, I believe you needed to have, because of some of the stuff we had up there, we decided to keep it kind of locked down until it was ready for prime time. So I will take a look at that, and I certainly can send that out. If anyone is interested, um, I actually had to create a handout where you can get in touch with us. And
Oh,
oh, good, someone did look at it.
that's great.
Okay,
Oh, good. I'm glad
Rachel.
it's
Oh, good.
available.
So it's available.
Good.
We
Please,
should know
please
basic
take a look.
questions like this.
We
Yeah.
should. We've been too
There's the
closeted.
link. Yeah, there's the link.
Fantastic. Okay, that's wonderful. Yes, I mean, it was a lot of work, but I think it's really, really valuable, successful stuff. And our next steps, what we're thinking about doing is maybe trying to combine the practicum that we run for our TAs with this training session and creating a sort of micro credential for our TAs so that they have some sort of certification that they can take with them when they leave to help them with their careers. So that's our next step, our next big project.
Thank you for that, Rachel. So we do have a 404, and this does speak to curation.
Mhm.
And again, to our title, Necessity Innovation, you know, when you are making virtue of necessity and there's not a lot of money to hire someone to constantly curate, exactly.
Mhm.
So Rachel is and missing an article. Thank
Mhm.
you. See, there you go. And this is, you know, for an honest conversation about what we're doing. Um, you know, this is the thing, and we don't have the OIT staff. But anyway, but this is something clearly we have to look at, in terms of curation.
Mhm.
Did anyone have any other questions? We were funded to set up the site with the Sure Grant. And the Sure Grant, what was the total on that?
It was about
Do we?
$3,000, give or take a few pennies, and all of that pretty much went to the TAs to give them a stipend over the summer to work. We spent very little money. We bought a couple of books and a couple of headsets, and that was it. That's the only money we spent on the project. Yeah.
And Rachel's right about running the diagnostics. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. Actually, this is using the web tool to check and see what's broken there. Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
But you can see, I hope what you got from this, though, that the students were so beautiful to watch and to
Mhm.
listen to. They were so excited. Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, they did. We were very lucky to have them. All right.
Thank you so much, guys, for sitting through this and we got through our technical difficulty.
And thank you, Kathleen, empowering students as leaders. Yes, that was definitely the core of our mission here. So it's
Yeah.
exciting. All right.
Thank you so